What's up, everybody? I'm Patrick Hickey Jr., Editor-in-Chief of Legacy Comix, and you are listening to Splash Pages. Oh, yeah! Can you dig it?
Is the one obvious thing.
Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. You are watching Splash Pages. My name is Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here. We have an awesome show scheduled for you, as always. And with us, we have Carrie. How's it going?
Going good. Hey, everybody. Hey, Tom Dog. I think you in particular are really going to enjoy our guest tonight. Just a thought of mine. Just a thought. But, yeah, doing great. Rad Tosker and I are here hanging out. Neither one of us are drinking right now. We had a night the other night, so we're on the rebound. But let's see what Jar's doing.
Well, before that, since you're not drinking, I got you covered, Carrie. I got you covered.
Okay. Awesome.
Jar.
Jar is still sharing to the socials because it wasn't up right away. I'm sorry. No, it's not your fault. I was just trying to do my due diligence.
Okay.
Make sure everybody's watching. That should be.
Totally. We got a bunch of people watching, so definitely you're doing the right thing, Jar.
Yes, I'm a little scared because I might have a storm of brewing, and I don't know if they're talking about losing electricity. So let's fingers crossed. I might be here in the dark.
Okay. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen. Drew, hey, wake up.
Drew.
All
Drew.
I know the show's on, Mom. Good. Give me 5 more minutes. No. Carrie, introduce the guest.
Drew. Wake up.
What?
It's your job. Come on.
Are we on?
Yes.
No.
Yes, we are.
Oh, crap. Hold on.
This is only a test.
Hey, everybody. How you doing there? Welcome to Splash Pages. Glad you could be here. That was a simulation, and it was a damn good one. It's Tuesday, and you had nowhere else to be, and for that, thank you. Yes, we have a great show. We have a great guest. But for once, I'm actually going to let someone else introduce this. So, eeny, meeny, miny, Carrie.
Hey, everybody. All right. Tonight, we have on the show comic book writer, co-owner and founder of Legacy Comix. He's also written some great books that are interviews with the creators and developers behind various video games, and is the voice on video games of, I believe, over 100 different wrestlers, Dracula and Renfield, and number of other characters. Please welcome to our show a man who you need to really check out his books, his comic books, and his games, Mr. Patrick Hickey Jr.
What's up, guys? Happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. Yeah, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Total mix of everything. Comics,
I just want to confirm we have you for more than 3 minutes, right? 3 minutes of pain. I just want to make sure. Okay, cool.
3 minutes, yes.
Okay, good. I just, last time we had to deal with a guy like that, we had to slap him into a Slim Jim, if you know what I mean. So
no.
Wanted to get that joke. Shut up. I'm allowed one wrestling joke. Okay.
Get out.
You don't get to say that to me.
Oh, but I do.
So how are you doing, Patrick?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. It's been a crazy week for us. My birthday as well was on Saturday, so
happy birthday.
Thank you. It's getting that scary age, where ice cream doesn't taste the same, and then by 10 o'clock you're already in pajamas. So it's just like, it's time to get some really cool stuff done. So I've been trying really hard.
Okay. I don't want to harsh your mellow, sir, but number one, perhaps you need a new kind of ice cream. And number two, pajamas are fantastic. So it sounds like you're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm doing good.
Yeah. Okay. Just not trying to harsh your mellow, bruh. But still. Yeah. Okay.
So what came first? Voiceover, books, comics? What was your first venture into this world of geekery?
So I am the head of the journalism program at the community college that I've taught at for the past 18 years. I'm also the head of the discipline council for journalism for the City University of New York. So I've been a journalist for about 20 years. I've interviewed everyone from I've interviewed David Mack, Michael Oeming, David Gibbons, those are some comic book people, but Channing Tatum, Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, I covered minor league baseball, minor league hockey. I was an editor at NBC for 3 years. So it was just journalism was first.
Damn.
And then I was at NBC for a little while and I was really bored. And I told my editor, I'm like, I need to start writing cool stuff. And he's like, well, what do you want to write? And I had a lot of contacts in the video game industry and a lot of contacts in the comic book industry. So I was like, just let me do the stuff that I've always wanted to do. And they did, to their credit. So that was a lot of fun. At the same time, I was running my own entertainment website, which I still run, reviewfix.com. So I've continued to pick up sources and contacts and stuff like that. So I would say for the past 20 years, journalism has been the one constant. And then I started editing dialogue for video games. And we ran into this wacky situation where our lead voice actor left. And we didn't have anybody, and our Kickstarter was starting in a week. So they were like, can you do it? And I was like, absolutely. And then all the video game sources that I've accumulated over the years are like, you do voiceover now? And I'm like, yeah. And then it was just a trailer here, a trailer there. And then I found out about WrestleQuest. And I do over 90 voices in WrestleQuest, including the Macho Man Randy Savage, Hawk and Animal from Legion of Doom, Junkyard Dog, Luna Vachon. And then that went into Renfield, where I voiced Nicolas Cage's character, Dracula, Nicholas Hoult. I do pretty much all the male voices in Renfield. So, and in between all of that, I had written a comic book when I was 18 and just couldn't find an artist. And then right before COVID, I found an artist. And then I was working for a small imprint called Lesser Known Comics. I did 4 comics with them and just realized that their business model was something that wasn't beneficial to me. So I started my own imprint and we went live and we were funded in 3.5 hours on Kickstarter. We ended up 300% funded. And then we were off to the races. So it's just everything's kind of all on the backbone of my journalism experience, but it's been really fun.
Do you ever get bored?
Seriously?
Do I ever get bored? I get bored all the time.
No shit, huh?
It's crazy.
Holy cow, man! You've done more in your short span of I don't know how long's it been. How old are you?
I'm 41.
Man, I'm tired just listening to you. No kidding.
Oh my God, I felt the same way.
By 6.
Like I felt like I wanted to start doing push-ups the second he started going that. I was like, oh, we got to puff up our chest jar. We got to We got to.
It sucks sometimes.
It's too exhausting.
But it's a lot of fun when everything like kind of clicks and everything's going the way that it's supposed to go. It's like last week we released an omnibus. I just wrote a hockey book. It was about a minor league hockey team that I covered in 2008. It's kind of like the movie Slapshot come to life, and it was so much fun. So I just decided to unearth like 16 years of like forgotten reporting into like this really cool book. So I've had all the players message me this past week, and they're picking up the book on Amazon and on our site. So it's like Legacy is turning into from comic book imprint to now we're publishing books too. So that's been so much fun. So like when everything clicks, it's great. When it's just like it's kind of like quiet and you can see like, you know, the hay, you know, rolling across the street and stuff, you're just like, oh my God, I have so much to do. And so it's hit and miss sometimes.
If I didn't know, I would say you didn't have a kid, but you do have a kid. So like,
I have two kids. Yeah, I have 2 kids. I have a wife that's fighting breast cancer right now. So it's just like, yeah, man, I am being completely tested right now, but it's just like I said, everything is going pretty good. You know, she's strong, she's tough, and you know, we're doing everything that we have to do. And I get to tell really fun stories in comic book form and in book form, and I get to voice characters and stuff. So it's just, I mean, I would be stupid to really like complain about anything.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of your voiceovers, Tom Dog is a huge wrestling fan. So he would like to know, who is your favorite wrestler that you voiced?
So the main reason why I took the WrestleQuest gig was because the first question they asked me was, can you do a good Macho Man Randy Savage? And I was just like, oh yeah, let me tell you something, brother. Yeah, can you dig it? And they were like, yep, we got you. So that was so much fun. That game was like, I was on the development team for 3.5 years. The game was in development for like 4.5 years. And oh my God, they spoiled me so much. I got to hang out with like Jeff Jarrett and Jake the Snake Roberts and like, oh yeah, so much fun. And like Diamond Dallas Page is my favorite wrestler of all time, and he's in the game. So it's just like, it was just so much fun. But yeah, like Macho Man Randy Savage, to the point where like, because like I said, I was on the development team for 3.5 years. And then after the game came out, I was streaming on MegaCat's Twitch channel, which to me is like a huge honor when like a video game developer is like, here's the keys to our Twitch, go live. You know, it's just like they trust you a lot. So I was streaming like 3 times a week for like 3 months after the game came out. So to the point where like my wife was like, can we please, like after this is over, just not do the Macho Man voice for like a month, maybe, you know? And I'm like, because she had it, you know, and I was like, all right, no problem. But it's been so much fun.
And Macho Men are some of the best to see at cons because they get so into it, and then there's always variation. So I think my favorite was at a con. There were like 3 Macho Men, and they were like, "Welcome to the Machoverse," and it was just having them just talking back and forth, and they don't break character. They're talking about their Miss Elizabeths. It is just funny. And that's how you're like, dude, you know what? You just got to respect the character of wrestling, you know?
That was one of the things too. Like I wanted to have fun doing this because it's just like, how many times do you get to star in a game? You know,
yeah.
And so like I spoke at 3 panels over a 2.5 year span at PAX East twice and PAX West once. We did a panel on the history of wrestling video games, which I know a lot about because I've interviewed the developers of like, I mean, I've interviewed hundreds of video game developers and like, especially wrestling games. That's like my jam. So, but after the panels were over, they were like, you're going to hang out at the booth. And I'm like, no, I'm going to cosplay as like Macho Man. So like I went to like the diner across the street and I bought a whole bunch of like coffee creamer and I was like throwing it at people like, yeah, the cream, yeah, always rises to the top, brother. Yeah. And we would just throw it like, oh my God. We were having so much fun. And they were like, this guy is a college professor and he's dressed up. And like, I was the Macho Man with like the really long Brillo-y hair, you know, like the wig I got was awesome. It was awesome. And I had like a leopard bandana on and the glasses, and I had the jacket with the frills. I was like, yeah, want some cream, yeah, you know, and like, we had so much fun.
So I'm assuming you watch wrestling today, right?
Huh?
Do you still watch wrestling to today?
Yes, absolutely. I probably watch anywhere from like 8 to 10 hours of professional wrestling a week. Between like AEW, WWE, Ring of Honor, New Japan, TNA. So I love professional wrestling. I've interviewed tons of pro wrestlers like Rey Mysterio, Paul Heyman, like tons of pro wrestlers. So there's just something so silly about it. It's just so much fun. You know, it's so serious. I've done ring announcing for pro wrestling before. One of my buddies in high school he owns a wrestling promotion, Battle Club Pro. They've had a ton of big names come out of there, but it was so great because I was promoting one of my books, and he was like, "Oh, just come out and we'll say you're like from the minds behind the games." And like I came out to the Final Fantasy VII boss music, and like, and I did the ring announcing for their first title match. It was just like, oh my god, it was so much fun. So, yeah, so.
We're going to come back to that Final Fantasy VII thing because I have questions about it, but we're on the wrestling thing now, so keep going.
Yeah.
Jar, I feel like just hearing this, we need to do more. So, you know what?
I really
we need to do more. We need to motivate ourselves to do more. Leo, you're fine. If you do anything more, you will explode. Carrie, keep up the good work. Yeah, go Carrie.
Oh, Tom Dog question. Who's your favorite wrestler in both WWE and AEW?
I would say Brian Danielson in AEW. WWE right now, probably LA Knight. He's just a lot of fun. He's like a throwback to the Attitude Era people. I love AJ Styles. He's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Samoa Joe is up there. Yeah. So in the comic that I've written, The Job, he's like kind of like a combination of a lot of those like TNA guys that like were really small but had big personalities and stuff like that. So yeah.
Carrie, if he just keeps messaging questions, just send him the link to come on. I'm just saying.
Yeah, right.
It feels good. Somebody asks questions, so yeah.
I watched some gameplay for WrestleQuest, and I gotta say, I'm not the biggest wrestling fan. I'm not anti-wrestling. I was a wrestling fan when I was younger. I just haven't really grown up with it still. But okay, so Muchacho Man is rather funny, but what's with the potato head? Is that a wrestling reference that I'm missing, or
no? It's kind of like the world of WrestleQuest. It's just like a combination of like there's like Lego characters, there's like bootleg He-Man characters, like it's like the thing is when I was a little kid and I played with wrestling figures, I also wrestled like characters from Police Academy. I also wrestled G.I. Joes. I also wrestled Thundercats, so it was just like the world of WrestleQuest is this like fictional toy box where like every toy that you owned as a kid lives, so it's awesome. A lot of fun. Yeah.
I think I'm starting to understand more of the voice acting because when you said Police Academy, I was just imagining you wrestling Michael Winslow's character and just doing the sound effects. I'm just like, yo, I'm done. Too much.
I used to get in so much trouble in high school doing stupid stuff like that. Like I would be in the cafeteria and I would do like the bell. I put like my hands together and just be like, ooh. And then you'd see like 200 kids just like walking out of the cafeteria, and the security guards would be like, "No, there's like 8 minutes left in the, in the period or whatever." And then I would be like this, and they'd be all
you just skeletoring it like, "Till next time, D-bags."
Absolutely.
They're like, "This guy again." Oh man, so I did high school wrong. I should have been doing that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Should have showed up. Damn.
Speaking of high school, when I was in high school, I was the Mortal Kombat queen of my region. I could play every single character. I could, do the randomized stuff. I could do all the fatalities. Sub-Zero is my guy, but I would play anybody, anything.
Same here.
So when you talk to the people who put together Mortal Kombat, were they expecting it to blow up as big as it did? Because I had the soundtrack for the video game and I was like hardcore, and I lived in the country.
No, they definitely did not expect it to blow up. While the game was in development, they actually felt like something was missing. It's kind of like the heir apparent, the spiritual successor to Karate Champ. If you guys have ever played Karate Champ in the arcade in the 80s, they loved John Tobias and Ed Boon loved Karate Champ. So they were trying, and if you look at some of the backgrounds, you could definitely see like the homages and things like that. But John Tobias is who I interviewed for Mortal Kombat, and he came up with the idea for the fatality. And the thing is, like, if you take fatalities out of Mortal Kombat, it's a good fighting game, but does it last the test of time? You know? So it's just like the fatality was the thing that really set it apart. Once they got that, they were like, okay, now we think we're off to the races. Because at that point, nothing is coming even close to Street Fighter, you know? So, so yeah.
And then you got the friendships and the babalities in part 2, which was, did you ever do the thing where you made it, I think it was Raiden, that you turn back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it would go until the whole screen clouded over, and then it would like set you off in something? It was a weird glitch on the machine.
That was like one of my favorite parts of all, because I interviewed the guy that did the port for the Sega Genesis for Mortal Kombat 3, and he was talking about that very thing, about getting all of those crazy things that they did in the arcade to work on the Sega Genesis. And the thing is, it's just like, when you design an arcade game, it's like you're basically designing a brand new console, because the arcade system works independently by itself. You know, when you design something for a console, it has to work within the console's parameters, so you have to make all of these changes and stuff like that. And that was one of the things that he said, like, some of these characters, the things that they would do on the screen, just like they thought weren't possible on the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, but somehow they got it to work. So that stuff was a lot of fun to interview those guys about.
That was also a huge turning point too, because I was working for retail at that time for a company called Software Etc. It's what turned into games.
Wow. Yeah, man.
And I remember, you know, the biggest selling point, like Genesis version, was, you know, it had blood, where the Super Nintendo version didn't. It was, that was a huge pivotal moment, especially, you know, the holiday seasons.
Carrie, just send him the link already. He just keeps asking questions. You know, it's just so our one frequent questioner says, is there any wrestler that you haven't voiced that you would be ready to go for?
To be totally honest, like Macho Man was the guy for me. Like, I was just like, if I was ever going, like, when that opportunity approached me, I was like, yeah, that's it, you know. I don't know what the plans are for WrestleQuest moving forward or anything like that. So, like, I'm more than happy to, like, jump in on the sequel and stuff like that. But for me, it was just like, Macho Man Randy Savage, Hawk and Animal from Legion of Doom, Junkyard Dog, like all those guys were just, I mean, that was just like my childhood dreams come true.
Did you get to interview Macho Man at any time?
No, like he had, I forgot what year he passed away, but like yeah, I wasn't at that point yet. The closest I've gotten to like interviewing him is like asking questions about him and getting like these phenomenal answers. So like when I interviewed Diamond Dallas Page, he was just talking about how like Macho Man would have like this long like list of the things that they would want to get done during a match. You know, it would be like 25 things. And he'd be like, yo, brother, what's 23? And DDP would have to like memorize like all like 25 things, you know, and like that's the kind of like attention to detail that he had for all of his matches. And when I interviewed Rey Mysterio was like, I cannot believe I did all the things that I did in WCW and I never got to wrestle Macho Man Randy Savage. He's like, I would have loved to, you know, and he was just talking about how much fun and how cool Macho Man was like as a performer, that like they all really like looked up to him and how unique and special he was. So
that's really cool.
That's awesome,
man. You sound like you've been living the dream of a geek, just like bouncing around doing and like a jack of all trades. It's really impressive.
I'm just trying, it's like every day, I have so many people message me and like, people joke around with me on Instagram, and like I have one guy that's like, oh, you're like Professor X. Whenever I have like a question, you could answer it for me. And then I always have other people that come to me and they're like, oh, do you know somebody? Of course you know somebody, and blah, blah, blah. And I just try and explain to them. It's just like, it's an everyday type thing, it's just like, I have real trouble like at night sleeping. Like I have to put like music on to like shut my brain off, and I love coffee and that doesn't help. And, and then I have like 2 children that like are super, like, they're just super dialed in. They want to have fun and they want to just do stuff all the time. And, it's rough, it's not easy. And I love when people say, oh, you're doing stuff that you enjoy, so it's easy. And it's just like, when you're doing stuff that you enjoy and stuff that you're passionate about, it's like so much more personal than like a normal 9 to 5 would be. And you take everything super personal, especially like when it's like a business thing, and like business, you're supposed to be like super, like things are supposed to not be personal. You're supposed to look at like your numbers and be smart and stuff. But it's just like when you're doing things that you legitimately care about, it's just like, it's super intense, like all the time, so it's hard. But like I said, when everything starts to click, it's super rewarding.
No, that's great, man. I was going to ask you in the beginning where you got the ideas, if you had actually been a wrestler or anything like that, but it just seems that you've been so connected to all these guys. That's how the comics came to life.
So the funny thing is, my master's thesis, I wrote about how someone can go from somebody that watches pro wrestling to actually becoming a pro wrestler. And I went to like one of the best training schools in the United States, and I hung out there for like 2-3 weeks, and I interviewed all the wrestlers, and I got in the ring a little bit and this and that. And I ended up getting a staph infection on my face because the mats are completely filthy. And I almost died. And they gave me, it got to the point where I look like Harvey Dent. Like the staph infection had just gotten, and I didn't miss a day of work. I didn't miss a day of graduate school. And it got to the point where like my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, was like, there's no kissy, there's no huggy. Like, you need to go to like urgent care, like right now. And I went to urgent care, and they were like, the doctors were going like this, like just touching my face. And he's like, I don't know what this is. And he calls in like 2 other doctors, and they're all touching my face. And I'm 6'4", I'm 260 pounds, and I'm like crying.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you guys don't know what this is, And they're like, you're a writer. Like, where have you been? What have you done? And then I told them the wrestling thing. And then right away, they were like, it's a staph infection. Take this for like 2 weeks. It'll go away. You're like super lucky that we caught this. Like 3 days later, I went back to the wrestling school, and Johnny Rodz runs it. He's a WWE Hall of Famer. He trained like the Dudley Boys and like tons of great wrestlers. And I'm like, Johnny, I got a staph infection on my face from your place. He's like, oh, Papa, don't worry. I got one here once and here once. And you're like one of us now. And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God. But I got an A on that paper for my master's thesis. And I got a story for like the rest of my life. And I realized that like, I would never become a pro wrestler because of that stuff. But I love pro wrestling. I've interviewed so many pro wrestlers. I've interviewed so many indie pro wrestlers. I have a bunch of indie wrestlers in my phone, and they'll be like, oh, can you watch my match? And like, let me know like what you think. And like, we'll talk about like their finishing holds and this and that and the other thing. So I really love like the science and the performance side of it. And I've just read so many books about pro wrestling and stuff. So the way the job came to be was I had an actor friend who was like, how come you've never written a play? And I was like, give me a deadline. And he gave me a deadline, and I wrote the job as a play. And we were going to get wrestlers to be in it. We were going to have a ring on the stage, and it was going to be all this crazy stuff. And then COVID happened, and they pulled the plug on it. And I was just like, this would be like a really good, like 6-issue comic book series. And then like, well, the first arc anyway. I'm like, the play could be like the first arc. And I talked to Kieran Quinn, who was doing Condrey with me, and he did the issue 0. And then we went to Steve Condrey, and now we have a couple of ash cans and stuff like that. But I mean, comics and wrestling are just perfect for each other. I don't know how you guys feel, but I just feel like there's so much inside baseball stuff in wrestling. And there's so much, like, when you're writing dialogue, there's so many things that you could sneak into the reader. And between writing it and then like when I'm actually the owner of Legacy now. I'm not the co-owner. I murdered the other co-owner.
Okay.
And I had to. I had to. Great guy, but just like, you know, you guys have seen already, like you guys are joking around and you're like, oh, I need to work harder. And I was sitting there with somebody else and I was just like, I'm doing a lot. And, you know, just like if somebody doesn't want to rise to the top, then they got to go, you know? So I took over the company myself. And at that point, my co-owner was lettering all of our books. And I had never lettered a comic book in my life. And I was just like, I'm going to teach myself how to letter books. So ever since then, I just started lettering all of the books as well. And that's been a lot of fun. So it's just like, even though I can't draw to save my life, being able to write and then kind of guide the art, because I feel like lettering is so underappreciated, how it guides the reader across the page and like just understanding how to letter properly. Like you get that Z going and it's just like everything falls together into one place. So it's just like, being able to have so much power over my own books, because I interact with so many comic book writers and they're just like, oh, here's the story, you know? And it's like, wait, that's it? You just want to give the story to the artist? Like you don't want to, like, I want to have as much like back and forth with the artist as possible, you know? Like I want to have as much fun and put as much passion and as much of myself into the book as possible. So I just feel like, that's kind of where I'm at as far as like the job. The job has just been so much fun to do, and to have so much control over like where it goes is really rewarding.
Now, speaking of the art, where did you find the artist for that one?
So issue 0 was done by Kieran Quinn, and he's my artist on. He was my artist for the first arc of Condrey, which is Condrey's kind of like our Deadpool, our Wolverine. He's like our flagship character. And I felt so bad for this man. Just got married, you know, trying to start a family and stuff. And we, I had left Lesser Known Comics, and he was my artist at Lesser Known Comics. And he came with me to start Legacy, and he was doing like 3 books out of the gate. And it was just a lot. It's a lot for just one person. So after he did the ash can for the job, I reached out to Steve Condrey, who had done some, some variants for us, and he did the Renfield ash can that we did we did a Renfield ash can with 250-year-old unpublished notes from Bram Stoker's family that Bram Stoker's family gave us. Wow. So yeah, it's pretty wild. So but like Steve did a great job on that, and anatomy is such a big part of wrestling. So I was like, Steve, you want to do the job with me? And then he did the job 1 and 2, and he's going to do the next bunch, but I wanted to have some ash cans to fill in some of the lore. So, yeah, that's Kieran's stuff right there. It's so good. It's very different from one. So Kieran's completely traditional. He's a completely traditional comic book artist. So that's all like pencils and watercolor and stuff like that. And I love David Mack, and I just feel like this has like a very like old school, not what David Mack is doing now, but very old school David Mack feel to it. So I super enjoy working with. And if you look at that page, if you look in the lower right hand corner, you see Condrey sleeping next to the bank.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're all in the same universe. So they are going to interact at one point or another. And then come on, then it's going to get a lot of fun. You have a vigilante, and then you have pro wrestlers, and you know. Yeah, so I'm trying to do more than just tell like stories. I'm trying to really like build a universe, like one issue at a time.
All right, I gotta ask, what's on your walls?
Thank you. What's on my walls?
Yeah. Are they comics?
Those are all legacy books.
Oh, sweet, man.
These are all legacy books. So like up over here we have like some of the jobs, Condrey, and then see right there is Door Slash, which is connected with Condrey and the Job. It's in the same universe. It's about a serial killer who uses DoorDash to murder people. Very fun. Very 70s pulpy. The one next to DoorDash in the upper right here, where my thumb is called Midland Beach Turkey Ninjas. I live in Staten Island. I moved to Staten Island last year, and when I moved there, I realized that there are tons of wild turkeys that like live all over the place. And it's suburbia. It's very nice, but these turkeys are like badass. They like run the street. So I did this comic where these turkeys are basically like a Yakuza gang that run the entire borough. And we got mentioned in in the New York Post and in the newspaper over here. We sold tons of those books. It was so much fun. So that may be something that we kind of come back to at some point. But yeah, those are all Condrey's, Brooklyn Bleeds, The Job. There's a whole bunch of stuff up there. It's all legacy stuff.
That's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
We have another wrestling question for you.
I wish.
Have you ever met Andre the Giant or Tommy? Okay.
Zeus, no. I wish. I met Virgil before he passed away. Virgil was a lot of fun. I'm trying to think of who else that I've met. Sheamus, the Bellas, Finn Balor, Dolph Ziggler, Triple H. I've interviewed Triple H before. So, yeah.
Damn.
Did you before he passed, did you get to meet Roddy Piper?
No, I wish. Oh, Roddy Piper's one of my. He's on my Mount Rushmore. Yeah,
he was
Roddy
cool.
Piper's awesome. Mm-hmm.
I got to meet him 3 months before he passed. He was super chill.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. He wasn't a character. That's what I like the most about him. Like what you saw on TV, that was like actually him, and he was super protective of like the business and the art form behind it and stuff like that. Like I love people that passionate because they usually scare the shit out of people. And I like that. I like when somebody walks into a room and people are like, you know what? I have to be on my game because this person doesn't play games, and I could joke around with them and I could have a good time with them, but at the end of the day, they're going to demand the best from me. And I feel like that's something that like Roddy Piper was like all about.
And he was in the best scene in a fight, or the best fight scene in a movie ever, hands down.
Yep.
You have to watch that like at least once a year. Like that fight scene is just it's iconic. So I love that movie. That's like one of my and like Enemy Mine. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Enemy Mine with Louis Gossett Jr. Like those two are like two of my most underrated, underappreciated movies of all time. Youngblood with Rob Lowe, that's like up there. Like there's so many. I love movies too. So
damn, you are really a jack of all trades. You're like movies. Let's talk those now.
Let's see.
I'm trying.
You mentioned wrestlers scaring the shit out of you. When I was first starting out doing interviews at cons, I thought Demolition was going to kick the shit out of me. I was so green. I went up to ask him questions, and I didn't realize that they had a line. Like I totally butted into them, and I'm like trying to get their attention.
Oh my god! Mm-hmm.
It was not pretty.
I probably shouldn't tell this story, but it's like I remember one time I was supposed to interview Jim the Anvil Neidhart, who's one of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time, and this is like maybe like a year before he passed away, and he was like on the indie circuit and stuff like that, and I spoke to the promoter, and he said it was all good, and I waited online. I was like, I'm here for the interview, and then he was like, oh well, if you give me $25, I'll give you like a great interview. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, bro, that's not happening. And then he's just like, and he thought I was like some 25-year-old kid that I was like a nobody. And he's like, oh, well, if you buy this book just came out. If you buy this book off of me, then I'll do the interview. I'm like, that book just didn't come out because the photographer of that book, George Napolitano, is the official team photographer of the Brooklyn Cyclones. And I covered them for 3 years. And that's Butch Reed on the cover, who hasn't wrestled in 10. So then he just looked at me like, oh, man. And I was just like, yeah, man, I'll see you later. Have a good one. And he was just like, oh, you don't want to interview me? I'm like, no, absolutely not. And then he like stood up, and he's like 6'2", but I'm 6'4". And he was like, in his 50s, and I was in my 20s. And I was just like, no, you don't want to do that, and I just walked away. But I was so pissed because I had questions ready. I was like ready to go. And crazy.
There's nothing worse than when you come ready and you have questions and you've thought them out, you've done the research, and then you get stopped and you just get I can't because of bullshit. Like, oh, they're under contract, or like the contract you get because that's a contract.
Oh, sure.
But but you'd think they would be posted, and I was like, wow, that I wasted all my time thinking all these questions, researching, doing all this for nothing, because you couldn't put that on your website saying, oh, these people can't do interviews because they're under contract. So I was like,
yeah. I mean, I'm supposed to interview Bret Hart like at least 3 or 4 different times where like I spoke to, his PR person, Marcy, and she was like, yeah, we're good to go. And you're on the Zoom or you're on the phone and it's just ringing and you're just like, wow, and stuff like that happens all the time, It's part of the business, and you try not to take it personal, but sometimes it feels personal, and it's just like, it's rough, but like I said, it's just, I try and just wipe that stuff off. You know, there's a great scene in Family Guy where Peter is talking about how he deals with rejection, and he's like sitting front row at the Miss America competition. And he's like, the girl's walking down the aisle, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, baby? How you doing?" And she just like turns her back and walks away. He's like, "Fine, that's whatever." And then the next one comes and he hits on the next one, and then she ignores him, and he just keeps going and keeps going. And it's just like, that's kind of the way that you have to be if you want to be successful. You know, it's like if like one no like breaks your heart, it's just like you're in, like, you have to have such a thick skin. You know, like I tell people all the time, I'm never anyone's first choice for anything, but I'll be your best choice. You know, so it's just like it's hard. It's hard sometimes, you know.
Jar, this man could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. this charm right there.
So
okay,
just to
questions.
Oh, go for it, Kara.
Sorry. I was gonna say we have a couple more questions. You're just generating. We got some audience participation tonight.
Yeah,
I know they're alive.
Yeah, usually it's just Tom Dog talking to us.
First question here, and I want to make a guess on this, if it's okay. Can you ask Patrick, why doesn't more bodybuilders try their hand at wrestling? They have the physique. They only have to run around a ring, so dexterity isn't much of a factor. Based on the friends I have who are in wrestling and the knowledge I do have, a lot of it is you can injure yourself so easily with stunts. If you do something just wrong, it's not hard to destroy your entire career then. Particularly bodybuilding is a very different type of thing than an active sport. Am I close there, or?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, bodybuilding is just lifting things up and putting them down. You know, pro wrestling, that dexterity thing, I'm sorry, you're wrong. You have to have excellent cardio to be able to be a professional wrestler. And then the thing is, like, until you've been thrown down on a wrestling mat, you have no idea how much it hurts. And like, it takes the air out of you, and you have to be able to get up like right away and have it happen again. And then the thing is too, have you guys ever run the ropes before? Have you guys ever hit the ropes in a wrestling ring before?
No.
It hurts. It's steel, like it's a chain with like a pad around it. It's not like these springy things. That's why when I watch pro wrestling and I see Braun Breaker, Scott Steiner's son, bouncing off the ropes as hard as he does, I'm just like, that's insane. Like, and some of these guys like pain, or they're just like kind of impervious to it. But it's just like, you have to have excellent cardio, and you have to have a higher resistance for pain, and you have to be cognizant of where you are at every single time, because the thing is, it's just like the cameras are on you all the time. So you have to be able to like play the game while you're in the ring at all time. Like, you can't just say, "Oh, we're not supposed to do that." They're going to catch it. Like, you have to be, there's so many other things. And a lot of bodybuilders, I'm sorry if I insult any bodybuilders, I apologize. But like, again, you're lifting things up and putting them down. Being a pro wrestler, it's like you're an actor. You have to have like the type of cardio that like an NBA player would have. You have to be able to run up and down the court for 38, 39 minutes. And we're not talking about Shaq running up and down. We're talking about like Steph Curry, you know, somebody just like running up and down the court. And then you have to be able to fall down, not hurt yourself at least 20, 30 times and figure the average wrestling match is 10 minutes. So yeah, that's why bodybuilders don't do it. And that's why wrestling is so different now in the 80s, because in the 80s, they love bodybuilders, and you would have guys do a leg drop as their finisher, where now a leg drop wouldn't even get you a 1 count. So yeah, that's why bodybuilders don't pro wrestle now. Maybe 30 years ago, but not now. No, never interviewed Jimmy Snuka. Yeah, no, I haven't interviewed a murderer yet. That's a goal. One day. There's actually a serial killer that's been in jail for about like 30 years in Staten Island. His name is Andre Rand. I would love to interview this guy, because it's just like the story. If you guys are ever bored one night and can't sleep, look up Andre Rand on Wikipedia, and there's like 38 missing kids that have never been found in Staten Island. And the stories are insane. It's like when I read that new comic from James Tynion IV, The Deviant, Oh my God, totally reminds me of like the stuff that Andre Rand did in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Yeah. So
Patrick, you're just hitting all the good notes for Carrie right now, because that's not only one of her favorite writers, that's one of her favorite books. That like, look, she's gushing. She's like, yes,
it's on my pull list. So
oh yep,
it's on
same.
my pull list.
Did you watch Mindhunter?
No, but now I have to.
Unfortunately, it was hit with the writer's strike, and it's not going to be coming back. It's period piece about the FBI before they became the FBI, and they're interviewing all these serial killers before. It's like how the phrase serial killer came to be, like how they invented it. And it's an amazing series.
I'm down. Yeah, I'm down. I gotta check it out. What is it on?
It's on Netflix.
Platform. Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So Patrick, kind of switching gears. So you said you've interviewed a nice amount of comic book people. Did you have any favorites, or any like, oh my God, like did you get a little starstruck? Like anybody that you got like, oh my God, you're here? Like what?
That's one thing. Like before the interview, I get it all out of my system. Like as soon as I start, it's just like boom. Like no gushing. No. So I've interviewed David Mack. Love David Mack. Love Kabuki. Love the Daredevil run he did with Bendis. Bendis is probably like my biggest. Bendis and Peter Hogan are two of like my biggest influences. Peter Hogan, I interviewed him when Resident Alien first came out because I totally believed in that book. And he's really been a great like support system to me. Like if I ever have a question about anything, I can ask him a question, and he's read Condrey. He's got a pull quote in the back of the omnibus that's actually going to be released on Friday. I'm super excited about that. But dynamic dialogue. So like Bendis, Peter Hogan, Jim Starlin, like a lot of those guys have had like big influences on me. I would love to interview Jim Starlin. But yeah, some of the biggest ones like David Gibbons, just to interview like the artist on The Watchmen, you know, like, and he was so nice. That was when I was at NBC too. So it was just like, I just like walked right over to him in New York Comic Con, and I was like, oh, we spoke like 2 weeks ago. And he's like, oh, you're from NBC. I'm like, yeah. And then we just started talking. So it was just like, that was my favorite part of working at NBC, was saying that I worked at NBC, because it was just like, it was just so easy to get to like where you needed to be and to get sources and stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely would have gotten starstruck for David Gibbons. Steve Niles, oh my God, such a fun interview. Nice. Amazing talent, you know. I'm trying to think of who else. Michael Oeming is amazing. I love Michael Oeming. But yeah, and the thing I like about comic book writers is they're formal, they're professional, but it's just like they're so willing to share if they feel like that the information you're giving them is going to be put to like practical use. You know? Like if you just go, oh, so what's your favorite run of all time? They're going to be like, yeah, I've been asked this question 1,000 times. Like, just go look at another interview. But if you ask something really specific, and you kind of like tickle their brain a little bit, then they'll answer like whatever you have. And like for me to go from journalist to comic book writer, like whenever I'm writing something and I'm like stuck, I just kind of like, sometimes I'll just go on my computer and be like, okay, and I'll listen to like an interview with one of these guys and be like, what would they do in this situation? And then how can I like take like what they would do and make it my own? And, you know, so it's just like, I've been lucky that I've had access to like such amazing people.
Rock on. I'm going to jump back. I'm going to jump back if I can real quick to the video games again, with the books that you wrote. And this is another, I played I played a lot of games, but very limited kind of, I was like an RPG or horror games and stuff like that. Some of the fighting games, but so Final Fantasy VII was listed as one of the ones that you did, and Final Fantasy was already just knocking it out of the park. But once again, I'm going to ask, did they expect 7 to become just one of the best games ever made? Because that just, I mean, it's been so redone and just amazeballs.
It's crazy to think that like by the time they got to Final Fantasy VII, that Sony was unsure if the American audience would actually be willing to partake in like such an in-depth RPG experience. And they were taking a huge risk with Final Fantasy VII. I spoke to the localization manager, who basically takes the Japanese game and makes sure that it's good for an American audience. And they had to change a lot because they felt like Barrett was like a stereotypical like militant African American character that was like kind of racist and stuff like that. So they had to like kind of change a lot of the lines to make him like a more worthwhile character. And by the time they were testing the game, they knew that they had something special. I remember when I was told the story, I was like, oh my God. Like, and I made a point of, I'm like, you guys have not told anyone this story. And they're like, no. I'm like, great. So it's going to be in the book, and this will be the first place it is. So what happens is, when a game the scale of Final Fantasy VII is being put through the development process, you probably have anywhere from like 10 to 15 people playing the game at the same pace at the same time, trying to find all of the errors and the bugs and this and that. Final Fantasy VII, they had a room basically of like 40 people, all with like TV set up. This is like 1996, 1995, 1996. And they're all playing Final Fantasy VII at the same time. And then all of a sudden, one guy goes, oh, shit. Oh, man. And the lead tester is like, what's the matter? And he's like, I can't believe they just did that. And then another guy goes, oh, my God. And then another guy behind it starts crying. And then another guy throws his remote. Yeah. And the lead tester is like, what's going on? What the hell is happening? And these were the first players in North America to ever see Sephiroth kill Aeris. When Sephiroth killed Aeris, these players, they lost it. And they knew from that moment on, Sony, Square, they knew that like, if the game played that way with the testers, and the testers had such an emotional response to Aeris's death, that they had the type of RPG that an American audience would take seriously. So it was a big risk for Sony and Square, but like just that story, the story of like Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, Red 13, like it's just something that like completely stands the test of time. So I don't think they knew it in the beginning, but by the time they were like halfway through the development cycle, they were like they had a hit. And it's just scary in a way, because there were so many good RPGs on the PlayStation before that, like Wild Arms, amazing game that like people didn't latch onto. It took Final Fantasy VII to be the game to introduce so many 13, 14, 15-year-old kids to RPGs. And then they were off to the races. And then, I mean, Final Fantasy has been insane ever since. And the games before that were great too, but Final Fantasy VII is the one that broke the mold.
Yeah, I loved all the games.
I was just gonna say, wasn't 3 the last one in the US, which was like 5 in Japan, and then they jumped from to 7.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason why the game was called Final Fantasy in the first place is because it was like Square's like last ditch effort. If that game wasn't a success, there was no more Squaresoft, you know. So it saved the company. It saved it later on. It saved the whole RPG genre, you know. So huge series, super important to video game history.
Oh yeah, awesome. And all the different ways you can build. I love how they change in each thing, like the different builds for the characters and the side games. Like I play 10 and I have like multiple saved blitzball teams, you know, like I can sit there and play blitzball for hours, you know. I can do that jet shot the first time. But my favorite thing to do when I first started playing Final Fantasy, we bought all of them, my SO at the time and he was like doing stuff, and I went through and did unarmed combat and beat each of the lower games just with that. And he's like, but you have to have a healer. You have to have somebody with this. I'm like, no, you don't. Yeah. You can monk it the whole way. You don't need the ultimate weapon. You can just punch them to death. And they're like, but you didn't do it. I'm like, yes, I did.
It's one of the same. It's one of the same reasons why I love the Fallout series so much, because it's just like you can play so many different ways, and once you beat the game, you could just start over. Pokemon is the same way, you know, like you could just jump in and build a team and completely, like every time you play the game, it's a completely different experience. So stuff like that, I love stuff like that. And it's like when I write, I try and create experiences where like the person doesn't necessarily know what's going to happen the next page. Like I try and make those turns count. And like, especially like with Condrey, like I try and expose like some of his like humanity, because he's this big hulking brute, but at the same point, he's like, he was raised by like a police officer and a decent woman, and he's not like this complete piece of crap that he looks like, and then like it's the same thing with Sarita. You see Sarita and you don't expect her to be what he is, and it's just like it's a microcosm in a way, because I'm like, when I teach, the first day of the semester I walk in and I'm 41 and my students still think that like I'm a student because I don't wear a shirt and a tie when I'm in the class, and like they're like, oh, you're a teacher, and then like I start talking, and then the next day they Google me and stuff like that, and they're just like, we didn't think you were what you were, and I'm like, nobody is. Like, your first impressions of everyone are always wrong, and I think like if you're writing fiction, that just gives you, if you understand like basic, like if you understand how dialogue is supposed to work, and if you understand how the mind works, you could have so much more fun with your reader than just giving them cliche after cliche. So yeah.
I'm just blown away.
Same here. I honestly have nothing to say.
I'm sorry.
No. It's admirable. I mean, you've done so much, and it really is a testament to your drive and your focus and your dedication. And I definitely understand that mindset of if no one's going to step up, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do that, and just in order to, like you said, get somewhere important, you got to put forth the work.
Yeah. I remember when this was like right before I turned 39. This was like a week after my 39th birthday, and I had the falling out with my co-owner, and we had our Kickstarter had just finished, and we had just paid for all of our books to be printed for our Kickstarter orders and stuff like that, and we were in the middle of like nailing all the Kickstarter orders and stuff, and I'm trying to line up cons, and I'm trying to get advertising and all this stuff, and I was just doing everything by myself, and I was just really tired and frustrated, and we had something like $70 in our business account, and I'm just like, I don't know like how much longer like we're going to be able to do this, and then I just like said, you know what, no, like I'm going to fight, and we went to a con and we did great, and then we were just off to the races after that, and it's just like, again, if you have a dream, people are not going to believe in your dream all the time. People aren't going to get it all the time, and that's okay. Because the thing is, all you need is just like one person to get it, and then one person to share it on Facebook or Instagram, and then you just keep going and going and going. So it's just like, it's freaking hard out there, and there are so many people. I mean, I see all the hashtags on Twitter, like comics killed me. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen that hashtag on Twitter before, and it's just people talking about how much money they've lost in independent comics. And I have friends that run comic book companies, and they're like, oh, I had to take out money from my retirement to pay for the next run of comics. And like, I feel like my biggest like success story in comics and in publishing is that like I have not lost a dime, that like I run my business and I pay everyone, based on their contract, and everyone is completely paid up, and like my kids are not affected by my failures. They're only affected by my successes. So that it's hard. Comics are so hard. It's just like Scott Rogers, he was the one of the developers on Pac-Man World, and he did Soul Blade and Maximo on PS2. Amazing guy. Just beat the shit out of cancer. I'm so proud of him. But he was in the comic book industry for a little while, and he was just like, dude, it's like a knife fight every day. I'm like, because there's just so many people out there trying to do it, and it's just like, how do you really tell what's good and what's not? You got to read as much as possible, and it's super hard because most people will not buy a book if the cover doesn't resonate with them, and it's just like, you could give somebody an amazing pitch and then you go, oh, I don't like wrestling, and then you're like, the job is so much more, it's about so much more than wrestling. It's about like fighting for your dreams, and it's partly like a relationship comedy in a way, and like there's so many other things, and or you go, Condrey, it's about a New York City homeless man trying to find out who killed his father. Oh, that sounds like Batman. Like, it's not. It's like Spawn, Highlander, Deadpool, Punisher, all like mixed into one. There's a whole bunch of other things going on in there. Yeah, but it sounds like Batman, and I don't like Batman. And you're just like, okay, all right. So it's just like every day is like that. Every day is super hard, and you just have to like, because it's just like, for me, there's a lot of indie comic book brands out there that like all they do is cons. They're at 2 or 3 cons a month. And since I have 2 kids and I have a wife that's battling cancer, I can't do cons nearly as much. So like I have to be able to sell books online. And when I talk to other publishers, they're like, you move that many books online? I'm like, I have to, because if I don't, like, the comic book company dies. Like, it's like people that like lose a hand, they learn how to live without a hand. It's like Jim Abbott, the guy that used to pitch for the Angels and the Yankees. He was a major league pitcher and he only had one hand. So you find a way. So like for me, I cannot wait for like my wife to finish her treatment so I can start doing cons again. I love meeting people. I love like talking to people like this. I love doing podcasts like this. But at the same time, it feels good because like we have, like, Legacy has a strength that a lot of indie comic book companies can't say. Like we have a good online presence and we have readers that have found us. So it's hard. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Like, that's the thing. And like for me, it's like if I could do a podcast like once a week, once every 2 weeks, and just try and reach as many people as possible. To me, cons, and this is the thing, and I'm sorry to get like all businessy, and I don't want to be like Elon Musk or anything like that.
Do your thing.
But it's just like, think of it this way: every indie comic book publisher is like, you have to go to cons, and you have to sell your books to comic book stores. Like right off the bat, those are the 2 things that you have to do. And for me, it's just like, so you're operating at a loss right from the beginning, because you have to pay for that table, and there's no guarantee that you're going to make your money back to pay for that table. And then when you go to a comic book store, the comic book store will take half of whatever the comic book costs as like their fee. But the thing is, like, if you're printing like 500 copies of like a 24-page book, that book may cost like $2.50 to print. So then if you're giving the comic book store the other $2.50, you're not making any money on your comic. So there's actually, if you're an independent creator, there's no benefit to being in a comic book store at all, because you're not making any money. And if you're not making any money, you can't make more comics. And that's the whole thing. You want to be in comics so you can make as many comics as possible. So this way you can increase your print runs to lower your print costs. So then this way you can sell to as many people as possible. So many people don't get that. So it's just like, I love cons. But a lot of cons I'll go to, I'll be like, listen, I'm going to do a panel for you. I'm going to do a panel on voice acting. I'm going to do a panel on my video game books. And they're like, oh, really? That's great. How much do I have to pay you? And I'm like, you don't have to pay me anything. Just give me a table. So now I'm at the con.
That's very fair.
Now I'm at the con and I'm moving books, and then as far as signings and stuff at comic book stores, I've done a ton, but I always talk to the comic book store owner, and I'm like, if you think that you're going to get like half of like what this book costs, like just for holding it in your store, you got to guarantee me that we're going to sell like 100 copies of the book, because otherwise I'm going to lose money. Why would I do this to lose money? You're running a business. I'm running a business. So, and the thing is, a lot of creators don't have that mindset. A lot of creators are just like, they just want to create, or a lot of artists, they just want to draw. And I'm just like, you have to have a whole other skill set, because if you don't, then you're just going to produce great stuff and no one's ever going to find it. It's super hard.
So we have somebody who's trying to pitch something to you here to see how you would take on it.
Every day.
If Patrick had to write a modernized version of Jack the Ripper, would you go the Dexter route, where he's a serial killer vigilante, or a Michael Myers type possessed kill everything? Or would you do something else?
I would do something completely different. That's the thing. It's just like, there's so much stuff out there. So it's just like, if somebody can go, oh, that reminds me of this, you're in trouble. Like you want to try and have something as original as possible. So like the serial killer comic that we have, Door Slash, is, I mean, think about it. If I have to pitch that to you in a sentence, it's a serial killer that uses DoorDash, the technology of DoorDash, to find people to kill. You're like, oh, well, how does he do that? And then, yeah. So the whole thing is just like, whenever I'm creating a character, I'm just like, okay, how do I make this as different as possible? So the thing is, there's always going to be echoes. Like, you're always going to go, oh, this character reminds me of this. That's okay. Because like when you're creating something, you're coming from a place of, you're bringing in all the things that you love, so it's okay for somebody to be like, oh, well, this reminds me of this, or this reminds me of that. Or sometimes people will automatically associate the things that they love into the character that you created. That's just like a natural thing. But it's just like, if you're starting off like right from the bat, like, oh, this is like Michael Myers. It's like, Michael Myers has made millions of dollars. Do something else. So it's like, whenever you create something, you have three options: to make it better, to make it worse, or to make it different. And I think making it different allows you to eventually come to a place where you can make the decision to make it better or worse, you know? But it's just like, if you're like, oh, this is a better version of Michael Myers, it's not going to be. And if you're like, oh, well, this is kind of like Michael Myers, but it's not as good, then why is anyone going to buy it? You know? So it's just like, you always got to go the different route as many times as possible. So it's like, whenever I'm creating a character, if I was going to create a serial killer, I wouldn't base it on one that was already like in comics or like pop culture. I would try and do something completely different.
So, Patrick, we're coming up on an hour. So normally, but I mean, normally what we do afterwards is that we cover some of the news within the week, discuss a little and then whatnot. So if you want to stick around for that, I mean, I think one other person that we've interviewed had actually stayed. You're more than welcome to, but
I'm more than happy to stay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, man.
All right. Cool. So,
before we get into that, just real quick, Condrey on Omnibus comes out Friday. You said.
Yes, you can pre-order. It's available digitally already on legacycomics.com, legacycomics.com/shop. The digital is available. It's available physically to pre-order, but it'll be they're coming to my domicile, my home on Friday, so I will start shipping them out on Friday. Super excited for that. All of the single issues, Condrey 0 through 5, Young Condrey, Angel of Death, Sarita, those are all available in physical, digital, and we also have QR trading cards. So we have these trading cards that look like 1985 baseball cards, and it's the cover of the book, and in the back there's a QR code, and you scan the QR code, and the comic will open up on your phone or your tablet. They're really cool. So all of our comics are in physical, digital, and trading card QR. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
And for everybody watching, I got links in the show notes up above or down below, depending on where we're watching or listening to this. And before we hop to the news, I just have to say, let me share this here. Where the fuck did you get the idea for Brooklyn Bleeds? Oh my God, just tore my heart out.
Okay, so real talk. My co-owner and I are having a conversation at the time. My former co-owner, and he had originally done KROOM with me, which is one of our comics, and it's based on a video game that I wrote the story for. The video game's been in development for like 3 years. I don't know if it's ever going to come out, but he did not do a great job on the art, and it pissed me off because like I really believe in the IP, and I was just like, we need to do another comic together, and we need to do something special, and we need to like redeem you, because like his art just like wasn't where it needed to be. So he's like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to write a zombie book. I love Robert Kirkman. I love Marvel Zombies. I love George Romero. So then again, I sat down and I was like, I don't want it to be better than The Walking Dead. I don't want it to be worse than Walking Dead. I want it to be different. So the whole thing is like every zombie book is about the people during a zombie apocalypse. No one ever wonders like what happens to like your cat or your dog, you know? So I just thought it was like a really interesting, like what would happen if like a dog had to like watch a zombie apocalypse unfold before their very eyes. So what ended up happening was I put my former co-owner on it, and he was drawing it. And then probably like a week later, he had resigned from the company, and I'm still sitting on this script. Then I went out and I went on an artist search, and we got Carl Antonitz, who did issue 0, who did issue 1, and then we've done 4 ash cans since with other artists, and we just actually released this last week. It's called Brooklyn Bleeds the first week, and it's a 60-page omnibus. It's got 4 ash cans and the comic that you see being shown, and it tells the story of Turjan, who is a Chow Chow dog, stuck in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. And at the end, he befriends a young boy named Elix, and they encounter people like in Brooklyn during a zombie apocalypse, and kind of like this ragtag group of people get formed, that like this completely unlikely group of people and things And to me, it was just like to give unique voices a voice in something that has been completely cliched. So it's just like every zombie book, you're like, oh, it's the hot girl, it's the tough guy, it's the nerdy guy, it's this. Well, it's like, well, what about like the dog? What about the kid with autism who doesn't speak? What about the man who just lost his wife and has nothing to live for? So it's just like I tried to give as many different and unique voices as possible. So like again, we just released this last week. It's called Brooklyn Bleeds the first week. So it's Brooklyn Bleeds, Hasty Bing, Brooklyn Bleeds El Fin de Mi Corazon, Brooklyn Bleeds Team Up, and Brooklyn Bleeds Journey of the Warrior. So it's 4 ash cans and 124-page comic all in one. It's super fun. It's the first arc. By the time you get to the end, you're going to be like, oh my God, my zombies are completely different from any other zombies. So it's just like, I just tried to make it really fun. And it was just like, whenever I write, I try and make things fun. So for me, it's like making the narrative as guttural and instinctual, because it's like, it's written like how a dog would think, Totally. Like I'm scared. Harry said bad word. Blah blah blah. So it's just like I remember showing it to my former co-owner, and he's like, "Do you think people are gonna get it?" I'm like, "Not only are they gonna get it, they're gonna like this dog, and that's the point." So it's like when I look at Legacy, like we have so many different properties. Like we have Legend of the Night Owl, which is a great comic. We have tons of we have The Bad Guy, which is another wrestling comic. We have so much cool stuff, but it's just like for me, my 3 babies are Condrey, The Job, and Brooklyn Bleeds. So it's like I remember when I was a kid, Brian Michael Bendis was writing 3 or 4 different series at once. And for me, it's just like last year I wrote 12 single issue comics. So I'm like, oh my God, I wrote a comic a month. I'm like a real comic book writer now. So it's just like for me, being able to go from this hard-boiled noir in Condrey to like this more fun, inside baseball, pro wrestling, Dog Day Afternoon comic in The Job, and then Brooklyn Bleeds, which is completely different. It's so much fun. So that's the thing. If you don't like tough guy comics, you probably if you like tough guy comics, Condrey is for you. If you like pro wrestling and you like hijinks and stuff, The Job is for you. But if you like something that's completely different, Brooklyn Bleeds, I think, is one of our best comics.
Awesome. Totally agree.
I'm happy you liked it, Leo. I'm happy you liked it.
Mm-hmm.
He's our animal lover.
Yeah, I have a chocolate lab. She just lost her eyesight, so it's anytime. I'm sorry. She's doing great though. We went swimming over the weekend, and she's like a lifeguard. Anytime I go swimming, she has to save me because I'm in the water. So this was the first time we took her with after losing her eyesight, and it's amazing how she was able to find me. In the water. His dogs we don't deserve them. They're too good for us. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we are going to switch over to news. Yes, Carrie.
Oh, I just had one last question about a comic that you've done, but we didn't bring up. The Messenger. Is that a crow or a raven?
It's a raven.
Okay.
Oh, poor
and it's a lot of fun too, especially since I wrote that a year and a half ago. And considering all the political climate right now, it's a pretty wild comic. I'm not into politics. I have my own personal beliefs on politics that I keep to myself and stuff. But it's basically The Messenger is about a guy running for president that gets involved with some shady individuals. And one of the shady individuals has a raven that does a lot of his dirty work for him and stuff. And it's a really, if you're looking for a really wacky, different, 10-page ashcan, it's freaking awesome. It's so much fun. So definitely in that Edgar Allan Poe and yeah.
But I do ravens too. Okay.
I love crows too. I love ravens. Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry, Leo. Back to you.
Okay.
No worries. Okay, we're gonna head on over to.
Okay, Jar, this is you.
Yeah, actually, before you do, just real quick, I just wanted to show these. Since we're doing variant watch, you guys got me hooked.
Woo!
Oh, God,
yeah, buddy.
Those are great.
I like that one.
You can only bring
Frank Miller one.
Yeah.
Foil.
Those are great.
You got the
foil.
You got the Steve McNiven foil cover. Nice. Okay. So which one are you bringing to Terrificon to get signed by Jason Aaron?
Jeez.
Well, he could bring the Scotty Young one too.
Yeah, he could.
Oh, I have some other Scotty Youngs on the way.
Or just get a twofer on the Scotty Young one. Get Jason and Scotty on the same one.
I pre-ordered some of his Spider-Man ones, and also
Did you also get the Gabriel Del Otto cover, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that was part of the ones I showed. I also pre-ordered the Donald Duck Wolverine set. Okay, so let me head on over to Variant Watch. Here we go.
Variant Watch.
Yep. Wait, don't worry. We don't do like all 150 that are released each week. We pick out the ones that we give a shit about.
Oh, the Marvel Comics. Okay. Marvel Comics is commemorating the 85th anniversary of comic book storytelling this year. To celebrate, they're releasing a special one-shot in August, along with a series of Marvel 85th anniversary homage variant covers. These 5 special covers will feature artwork by contemporary artists Elizabeth Tork, David Yardin, Paco Medina, Joelle Jones, and Jan Bazaldua. I hope I didn't hurt that one too much.
You did good.
They'll be reimagining classic covers from Marvel's early days, blending vintage designs with modern characters. The homage covers are based on significant issues from Marvel's history, including Marvel Comics #1 from 1939, Marvel Mystery Comics #8 from 1940.
Wait, Leo, next.
Well, this was not #1. This was #8, which he was just going to mention.
Yeah. From 1940. Then we got Captain America Comics #3, which will be all right. I'm sorry, I can't watch what you're showing. And
no worries. Yeah. So it looks like this is Marvel Comics #1.
Okay, that is awesome.
Yeah.
That looks
awesome. We
And
don't have Captain America. We have Submariner.
Submariner Comics #32 from 1949. 3 of the anniversary variants covers have been revealed. The Fantastic Four #23 by Elizabeth Tork, which is is that the Marvel Comics #1?
This is the Marvel comic Fantastic Fantastic Four #23.
Marvel that's the Elizabeth Tork one. Then the Venom #36 by David Yardin, and then Amazing Spider-Man #56 by Paco Medina. Those have all been revealed. We have those 3. The other 2 that haven't been revealed are X-Men #3 by Joelle Jones and Incredible Hulk #16 by Jan Bazaldua. Will be available for purchase on August 14th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. This celebration aims to honor Marvel's rich history while showcasing its evolution and continued relevance in today's comic book landscape. I always love when they do the homage covers.
Yeah, I was going to say this is the kind of variant cover I can get behind. It's referencing history, but also showcasing some of the current, upcoming great talent. Pretty freaking solid. And it's not as weird as the next variant thing you have. Is that right, Jar?
I don't understand the connection to this one.
All right.
Are they doing a Beetlejuice comic book as well?
Whoa, dude, you got to show.
I'm sorry. I'm on the other thing. Hold on, let me go back to. Okay, well now we're on it.
Yeah, now we're on it. Yeah, no, Go for it, Judger.
It's okay. DC Comics is gearing up for the release of Beetlejuice, the upcoming sequel directed by Tim Burton and starring Michael Keaton. To build excitement, they're releasing a series of variant comic book covers featuring Beetlejuice interacting with the various DC Universe characters. These special covers will start appearing in stores next month. They showcase the mischievous bio-exorcist encountering heroes like Superman, Wonder Woman, and Harley Quinn. The cover generating the most buzz shows Beetlejuice booming over Batman. What makes this particularly interesting is that Batman is Michael Keaton from the Tim Burton Batman movie and Batman Returns.
Well,
go ahead, Drew.
No, also it's important to note that artist right there for that cover, that's Joe Quinones, who has been the artist for Batman 89. So Echoes and their current series, he's been that artist. So he knows how to make that style, and it's really no surprise that he's, essentially taking a double reference onto Tim Burton there.
Yeah.
So it seems they will cover Gotham City Sirens #2, which will be by Dan Hipp on August 13th. House of Secrets #92 facsimile edition by Kelly Jones on August 21st. That's that one. I love that.
Gorgeous.
Nightwing #117 by Nicola Scott, August 21st. Superman #17 by Chris Bacalo. August 21st also. Wonder Woman #12 by Elizabeth Tork and Sabine Moss on August 21st again. And Batman #152 by Joe Quinones, as Drew mentioned, September 4th. Yeah. Everybody ready for Beetlejuice?
Just in time for September 6th for when the movie is in theaters. Yep.
But
it's an
I don't think they're doing a comic.
No, it's an odd flex.
Yeah.
Like I kind of expect to see like a Happy Meal at some point. Like they've done references to movies before, but that one's a new one. I don't know. We've covered a lot of variants. I don't think we've seen that.
I liked when they did the movie posters, like Batgirl was Purple Rain. And,
that was
those
were clever. Yeah, those were really cool. But all right.
Is it me, or is like the cross marketing with comic book items getting a little crazy? Like have you seen all like the Deadpool stuff? Like they just released a new one, like Heinz took over Deadpool.
Oh no, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it was released by Marvel too. It was on their YouTube channel. It was like a little too much.
Any publicity is good publicity in their mind. We're talking about Marvel, Leo. Come on. Like, you think they know something about running the well dry? So
that's it for Variant Watch.
Okay.
Yep. Very short week.
Yeah. Well, then we are on to
Drew's News. Exciting tales, fresh comic views. In the pages, heroes fly, villains plot under the sky. From Gotham's dark to Metropolis views, we cover stories old and new. Drew's News, your daily source for comic clues. Join the fun, it's a heroic cruise in the world of Drew's Comic News.
I'm stressing so hard right now.
I don't think we had anybody sit through that before that wasn't part of the show.
Indeed. I hate you all, except Patrick. He's doing good work.
My Robert De Niro face.
Okay. I'm watching you. All right. So the first news is unfortunately that there has been a death in the comic industry. The great acclaimed comic artist Michael Zulli, who is best known for his work that he did on Sandman with Neil Gaiman, passed away recently at the age of 71. He pretty much broke in the comic book industry kind of, 60s, spent most of the 70s, did a lot of independent work and whatnot. He did move over to Mirage Studios at one point. He worked on some issues of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, something our illustrious Justin Cooper probably knows. He was notably an artist on a controversial issue of Swamp Thing, which was written by Rich Viecht, which saw Swamp Thing witnessing the death of Jesus Christ, essentially with Swamp Thing making up part of the cross. DC ended up pulling the issue before it saw publication. And something like that actually happened similarly with the first time he was collaborating with Neil Gaiman. They both were doing an adaptation of Sweeney Todd.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, Stephen Bissett's Taboo, but the magazine folded before the story could be published. So as we know, and Carrie would especially know this being such a huge Sandman fan, he did a lot of work within Sandman. Notably, his debut was issue 13, which introduced Hob Gadling, who, as people who watch the show, read the book know, that was the human being who made a deal with death. So he was immortal, and every, I think it was like 100 years, he would meet Morpheus at the same bar, and they would catch up. He would return a bunch of times over the book. He also drew The Wake, which was the final storyline in the series, which got him a lot of Eisner Award nominations. They worked on other projects. They did Alice Cooper's The Last Temptation. I believe there was another book of Neil Gaiman's, which the name escapes me right now, which was, again, gorgeous. He did a lot of projects with Vertigo, Seekers of the Mystery with J.M. DeMatteis. He also did Web Spinners with Marvel. It's kind of like a Legends of the Dark Knight. And notably, for myself, he also did one of the issues for the Shade limited miniseries. That was the first one in the 90s. And again, such a sad loss. He was such a great artist. And fortunate for him, his work was wonderful, and it will live on. So his memory will not be forgotten.
He was awesome.
So, yeah, great artist. So, with all of that said and done, next, please. So this I'm very excited about. Dark Horse has announced the Beasts of Burden Omnibus for February 2025. This is a 600-page paperback for $29.99 that includes the entire Eisner Award-winning series by Evan Dorkin, Sarah Dwyer, and a smattering of others. This is drawn by Jill Thompson and Benjamin Dewey, lettered by Nate Pecos and Jason Arthur. So this includes the stories Animal Rights, Occupied Territory, Neighborhood Watch, The Wise Dogs, The Eldritch Men, and several tie-in stories, which included one of my favorite stories, a crossover co-written by Mike Mignola, starring the world's famous paranormal investigator, our favorite Hellboy. So for those who don't know this, Beasts of Burden follows ordinary cats and dogs that are living in a small neighborhood on Burden Hill that are forced to defend their home against supernatural threats like zombie roadkill, werewolves, demonic frogs. So they often seek help from their wise dogs, who are these shamanistic dogs who are very wise and often help them whenever they're dealing with a problem. And despite being cats and dogs, they frequently work together to defeat all sorts of creatures. So, so this has been around since 2003, which is when the first appearance happened. And this is a gorgeous book. I own some of their first appearances. I've met both Evan and Jill. They're terrific people. And honestly, this series is so great. But as an animal owner, similar to the book that broke Leo, this book might break your heart too. There are some moments in it that are just beautifully shattering. But
for anyone that's never read it, it's like Twilight Zone and Homeward Bound mixed into one.
Oh boy,
it's so much fun.
It's so good, and the creators clearly love it. I mean, I've spoken to both of them before, and they're like, yeah, if we could write more, we'll write more. And I'm like, great, please do, because it's a great story, and Jill Thompson's artwork is just beautiful because she draws it out, but she watercolors it, and it's just.
I'm gonna have to pick it up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Carrie, I feel like this is right up your alley. Animals, doing magic. It sounds like
100 pages for $30 is a score too.
Right? I know they've been clamoring for an omnibus for this for a while now. because it was usually just, you know, the trade paperbacks. But now this, I'm like, trust me, even I'm like, you know, I think I could spare $30. Mm-hmm. You know, who needs groceries? Wait, I could read. Food for my mind.
There's been so many good animal books lately. You know, we just read, you know, Brooklyn Bleeds, which was amazing, and now you have this as well. Then we also had the pets going after the serial killer. Feral? Was that Feral? No.
What, Stray Dogs?
Stray Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we had those variants. Oh my god, so many variants.
We had Trish and Tony on the show, and that was before issue 3 dropped, right, Jar?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, and they was so great talking about that. But I agree with you, Leo. Like, you have there's a lot of those out there right now. There's got that series Man's Best is Feral. Oh yeah, Feral is just gutting all of us.
Animal Pound, which is getting
what's the
weird.
John?
Yeah, Animal Pound is
Good
definitely
Boy.
weird.
Good Boy's the John Wick one.
Well,
Good
Boy.
Yeah,
Patrick, have you read Good Boy?
No, but now I have to.
Yeah, basically,
it's so good.
Patrick, just imagine if John Wick, but instead of John dying, it's the dog that avenges him. Because
I love it.
Oh, it is fucking crazy. But when you unexpectedly gets you, you're like, God damn, the feels.
Yeah.
It's like when Rick and Morty would occasionally hit you with the feels. You're like, oh no, oh wow, oh wow, okay, we're gonna take a day now. But yeah, definitely advise that. So next, okay, so this is most recently. This is I normally wouldn't mention this, but this is a huge thing. Boom Studios has been acquired by Penguin Random House. So this is one of the latest change for Boom since the company founded in 2005. More recently, you had seen 20th Century Fox purchasing a minority stake in 2017 when they held the company's first look deal for a couple of years. That then came over to the Walt Disney Company following the 2019 acquisition. But now Penguin Random House, who is becoming a growing player in comic industry, who as they're handling distribution, marketing for DC and direct distribution for Marvel, Dark Horse, IDW, and more. So the question being is, how is this going to affect the distribution deal with Diamond Comics? And if this, when you acquire it, is this going to mean layoffs, the employees of the publisher? So that's now an imprint of Penguin Random House. So we will see. I don't think anything's really going to change too much, but I've been wrong before. So, but an interesting move. Didn't see that in my 2024 bingo card. So, I don't know. What happened?
Yeah, I hope the creator else stays around. Why? Yes, there is, Char.
There is
one
that I know. One I know Carrie wishes she was covering, because this is right up her alley. So, Harvey and Eisner Award-winning New York Times bestselling author Brian Azzarello, who will be at Terrificon, along with acclaimed artist Vanessa Del Rey, known for Empty Man, Redlands, and colorist Hilary Jenkins, who did Black Badge, Grass Kings, are working all together on a story called The Creeping Below, which is a revenge story about black metal, magic, and Norse mythology. Essentially, the synopsis follows a character. His name is Val. She's an American metalhead attending a music festival abroad in Oslo, is victimized and killed at the hands of a charismatically evil, of course, local black metal band, the Old Gods of Norse Mythology. Raise her up, and they guide her to the path of brutal vengeance in the name of women everywhere. But the question being is, will this new warrior walk the path or become something far more terrible? So we've been seeing the covers here. You got the main one was by Vanessa Del Rey, variants by Maria Lovelit from Faithless, Mike Diodato Jr. from Berserker Unbound, and Jay Lee from The Dark Tower. So keeping in line with the influx of spooky books in this upcoming year, October 2nd is when The Creeping Below will be available in your local LCS. So, Carrie, make sure to make note of that.
Oh, yes. My pull list is going to be so huge this year because all of the horror has been coming out. Like it's just taken on a new life. I mean, there's always been the horror, but it's just like there's so much now that they're going to love me. Because like, here's all my money. I'll be sleeping out in your alley. Thank you.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And it's coming out at the right time, as opposed to last year when DC decided to throw that Halloween series in August.
Yeah, that was random.
I remember that.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
You don't remember me totally bitching about it because they fucked up the Batman run?
No.
Yeah, no. I remember, and you still need to get over it. Okay. Okay, because you talk. My God, man, you hold grudges more than an entire Girl Scout troop. Jesus, like, goddamn.
Our Girl Scouts for holding grudges.
Yeah, that's why they sell the cookies. It softens the blow. Yes, true. Don't ask me how I know that. So that's pretty much everything for the news. Again, it was a very short week. We are hypothesizing that most likely probably the last week, we're going to have a lot of news because that's going to be following San Diego Comic-Con and
San Diego Comic-Con and Deadpool. You know, we're going to have the Marvel Universe reset.
You know, you got to stop bringing that up because we still don't know if that's happening.
We know it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen. All right. So,
did you read it?
So before we sign off, Patrick, thank you again for being with us. It was really great. Thank you for being the second person who stayed for the whole show. So good job there, man. Small company.
Yeah, man, no problem.
But before we sign off and everything, what's the best way for people to get to reach you, social media and things?
So I'll tell you that, and then there's one more thing that I wanted to say that I completely forgot that I think you guys will enjoy. So if you guys want to find out anything about us, Legacy Comix, it's Legacy and then Comics, COMIX.com. The site is daily updated with work in progress and announcements and stuff like that. And if you go to legacycomics.com/shop, you see all of our books. We've got a whole bunch of stuff for the summer and stuff coming for the fall. We're on social media. It's legacy_comics on Facebook and Instagram. They're updated multiple times during the day. It's all me doing all of that stuff. So I'm super easy to get a hold of. Just shoot me a message if there's anything that you need or anything that you want to see. We have a Patreon as well, Legacy Comics, for as little as $3 a month. You can take a look at like all of our stuff in progress. That's updated every day as well. The only other thing that I wanted to say is like we have a very special comic coming for the fall. So as you guys know, like I said, I've written 7 books on video game history. They're called The Minds Behind the Games. Those books have sold well, but there's a problem in the video game industry, and it's that most people that play video games do not want to read 100,000-word books about video game history. They want something like quick and dirty. And so I decided to take it upon myself to turn The Minds Behind the Games into a comic book series. So The Minds Behind the Games will be a comic book series, and the first issue is going to be it's going to tell the development story of Red Dead Revolver on the PlayStation 2. And that's going to be coming out this fall. Joshua Adams, who has drawn tons of great stuff for us. He's done some great covers on Brooklyn Bleeds. He did Midland Beach Turkey Ninjas. He did some Condrey stuff. He's super talented. He takes the interviews of the developers that I've done and adapted to comic book style and tells the development story of Red Dead Revolver, which went from a Capcom game that Capcom had no idea what they were doing with to a Rockstar game that sold over 1 million copies and led the groundwork to the Red Dead Redemption classics that we know today. So the pre-order info on that is going to be up in the next couple of weeks, but that is going to be a banger of a comic this fall from Legacy Comics.
Awesome. And are you reading anything or watching anything right now?
Oh my God.
So right now reading Deviant, reading Helverine. I just my daughter bought me for my birthday the Crow omnibus So I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna jump into that again because I haven't read that in a long time.
How old's your daughter?
She's 7.
Damn, she's got loot.
But then also too, another thing that I didn't tell you guys, in January, my daughter, when she was 6, wrote her first comic book, and it's called My Brother and the Ladybug, and it's about a little girl that wants to become Joshua Adams is the man, absolutely. He's amazing, but my daughter wrote a comic book about wanting to be a sister, and she tells the story of how she became a sister, that she made a wish to a ladybug that she saw in her window and stuff. It's very cute, and it's got like 4 pages that are in black and white that the kids can color after the comic, but she actually wrote the script for it, and then I just cleaned it up a little bit, and then we gave it to Joshua Adams. So she might be like the youngest like comic book writer of all time. So we've got like a little bit of something for everyone. We've got zombies and dogs and noir and pro wrestling, and we've got kids books, and we've got full novels on pro hockey. So we've got like a little bit of everything at Legacy Comics. So thank you guys so much for having me.
I feel like we've
totally.
scratched the tip of the iceberg, though. I feel like there's like stories galore left inside.
And
whenever you guys want to have me on again.
He already told us.
Yeah, the turkey book is great. And if you guys want to check out Joshua Adams at some of his best, the Midland Beach Turkey Ninjas book is hilarious. He did a great job on the art of that. And Joshua Adams also has his own series called Godfo, which is a really cool, I call it like Kentucky Fried like manga. Siri is talking to me. That's so funny.
She just tell you need coffee?
Yeah, I think so. Isn't that so funny? But yeah, Joshua Adams, like totally up and coming artist that you guys should totally check out. He does great stuff for us and his own imprint.
Awesome. Okay, yeah, very well.
Come on that note, we're going to wrap things up. I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. And to learn more about Patrick, definitely check the show notes up above or down below, depending on where we're watching or listening to us. We got a lot of information there. And you know how to find me. Just Google me. But I run the Dorkening Podcast Network. Head on over to thedorkening.com to learn more. Also, check out our YouTube page. We're about to hit 500 subscribers, and we put up a ton of content there that, you just got to go check it out. A lot of special stuff. And we will throw it on over to Gary.
Hey, everybody. You can catch me here every Tuesday night with these wonderful gentlemen. And when I am not here, I'm hanging out with a squirrel. I am also over on the Owlite Network, which is part of the Dorkening, and I do shows there every Sunday. We have a rotating schedule of shows. Everything is about storytelling there. So we have a rotating show on Sundays. Every Monday now is Tomb of the Terrible, where we rate really bad movies. This next week, we just finished watching Sleepaway Camp, and coincidentally, the wheel rolled and spun. So we're watching Sleepaway Camp 2 this upcoming week, and everybody was really mad at me for adding it to the wheel to begin with, and then it just happened to land there. So I brought down the wrath of the Owlite. But we have shows like we have 15 shows going on depending on what day it is. So look for us over there. Find me at Carrie Sanders on Facebook, and my links to my author page, everything else is all there. So that's all you got to do. Find me.
I have to say, Felissa Rose is such a sweetheart. If you ever get a chance to meet her, she's amazing.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Jar Jar.
Okay. Hey, I'll be back next Tuesday with these fine fellows and lady for Splash Pages. And then tomorrow night, check me out on Token with the Dead at 7 p.m. We are talking to Gabrielle Eccles from Evil Dead Rise. So that should be pretty interesting. And go to Terrificon. Check out the panels. I'm doing 2 of them.
Maybe more.
No. If Leo has his way, I'll be doing all of them, I think. But no.
Awesome.
2's enough. That should pay for the table, right?
I'm sorry. I haven't ready.
Yeah. Table's already paid for us, so that ship has sailed.
I didn't talk during your exit intro. Thank you. Your outro. So thank you. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. We had a spectacular time. But as always, I'm exhausted, so nothing's changed there. If you need to get in touch with me,
there's social media. You can just look me up. I'm there. I'll probably get back to you eventually. But definitely, if this is your weekly thing, thank you for coming. If you're a new person, please stay, enjoy. Yes, have some. Next week we have on Mr. Russ Braun, aka one of the frequent artists on Garth Ennis's The Boys, which will be concluding their latest season this upcoming Thursday. So very exciting there. And we still have so much more planned as we do this countdown to Terrific Con. So I would definitely stay tuned, everybody. So yeah. And thank you for Patrick for sticking around.
Yeah.
Everybody do their best Macho Man for their exit.
Oh yeah.
Macho Man.
I got you for 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Macho Squirrel.
It's getting bad.
Shut the fuck up. All right, everybody. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, everyone, for staying on. It's late. Go to sleep. Bye.